The cafeteria of New Terra Academy buzzed with the usual chaos of lunchtime when Insia entered, her tray trembling slightly in her delicate six-fingered hands. Her silver skin shimmered under the harsh fluorescent lights, and her large opalescent eyes scanned the room for an empty seat. The teenage Zephyrian refugee had been attending the human school for only 3 weeks, but the hostility felt as fresh as her first day. "Look, it's the space freak," whispered Barris, a broad-shouldered human boy with sandy hair, as Insia approached his table. His friends snickered, their voices carrying just loud enough for her to hear. "You can't sit here, Scum. This table's for real students, not charity cases." Insia's shoulders sagged, but she said nothing. She had learned that silence was often the safest response. Her people, the Zephyrians, had been known throughout the galaxy for their pacifist nature, a trait that had nearly led to their extinction when the Voidborn Armada swept through their star system 6 months ago. She found an isolated table in the corner, picking at her synthesized protein while trying to ignore the cruel laughter echoing from Barris's group. What these human children didn't understand, what none of them could comprehend, was that Insia carried secrets that could reshape their understanding of the universe itself. 3 days later, alarms began wailing throughout New Terra Colony. The sky above the settlement turned an ominous shade of crimson as massive shadows blotted out the twin suns. Through the Academy's reinforced windows, students watched in terror as sleek obsidian ships descended from the clouds, vessels that seemed to absorb light itself. "Voidborn!" Insia whispered, her voice barely audible over the panic erupting around her. Her hands began to shake uncontrollably as memories of her homeworld's destruction flooded back. The screams of her people, the cities reduced to molecular dust, the endless darkness that followed the Voidborn wherever they went. Principal Martinez's voice crackled over the intercom. "All students report to the emergency bunkers immediately. This is not a drill. Colonial defense forces are engaging hostile alien vessels." As students rushed toward the exits in chaotic streams, Barris found himself next to Insia in the crush of bodies. For the first time, he noticed the tears streaming down her silver cheeks, and something about her expression made his stomach clench with unexpected guilt. The bunkers were cramped and filled with the acrid smell of fear. Through the thick concrete walls, they could hear the distant sounds of battle, energy weapons discharging, explosions, and the terrible silence that followed each exchange. Colonial defense pilot chatter filtered through emergency radios, growing increasingly desperate with each passing hour. "We've lost the orbital defense platforms," came one transmission. "The Voidborn ships are adapting to our weapons faster than we can recalibrate. They're learning our attack patterns in real time." Insia stood abruptly, her luminous eyes scanning the bunker until they found Principal Martinez. "I need to speak with your military commanders," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "There's something about the Voidborn that your people need to know." Martinez frowned. "Insia, now isn't the time for—" "My father was chief science advisor to the Zephyrian High Council," she interrupted, her words cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Before Zephyr Prime fell, he discovered something about the Voidborn's adaptive technology, something that could save your world." The radio crackled again. "Colonial Defense Command, this is Squadron Leader Chen. We're down to 30% strength, whatever these things are. They're unlike anything in our tactical databases, requesting immediate evacuation protocols for the civilian population." Martinez's eyes widened as understanding dawned. He quickly established communication with the Orbital Command Center, and within minutes Insia's voice was being broadcast directly to the fleet commanders battling in the void above. "The Voidborn ships don't just adapt to your weapons," she explained, her scientific training evident in her precise articulation. "They absorb and replicate your energy signatures. But they have a critical flaw. They cannot adapt to chaotic, non-repeating patterns. My people discovered that random emotional responses bypass their learning algorithms entirely." In the bunker, Barris watched in amazement as this girl he had tormented revealed tactical knowledge that could save their entire world. The irony was not lost on him. The alien scum he had rejected was now their salvation. Following Insia's guidance, the Colonial Defense Forces abandoned their structured attack patterns and began employing seemingly random, intuitive maneuvers. Pilots were instructed to rely on instinct rather than training, to embrace the chaos of human emotion rather than military precision. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Voidborne vessels, programmed to counter logical tactical responses, found themselves unable to adapt to the unpredictable creativity of human warfare. One by one, the obsidian ships began to fall, their perfect algorithms crumbling against the beautiful chaos of human intuition. As the all-clear signal finally sounded and students began emerging from the bunkers, Principal Martinez gathered everyone in the main hall. Barris stood near the back, his eyes fixed on Incia, who seemed smaller somehow, fragile and exhausted from the emotional toll of reliving her people's trauma. "Today," Martinez began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, "our world was saved by the brilliant mind of one of our own students. Incia of House Zephyr didn't just provide tactical advice. She gave us the key to defeating an enemy that had already destroyed her entire civilization." He paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. "Some of you have treated her poorly. Some of you have called her names, excluded her, made her feel unwelcome in our community. But today she proved that heroism has nothing to do with the color of your skin, the number of your fingers, or the world of your birth. She is not alien. She is human in every way that matters." Barris felt heat rise in his cheeks as Martinez's gaze seemed to find him in the crowd. The principal's next words hit him like a physical blow. "She saved us all." In the days that followed, Incia never spoke of forgiveness. She didn't need to. When Barris approached her table in the cafeteria, his own tray in hand and shame written across his face, she simply smiled and gestured to the empty chair beside her. "Would you like to sit?" she asked, her voice carrying no trace of resentment. As Barris sat down, he realized that this was what true humanity looked like. Not the cruel exclusion he had practiced, but the compassionate inclusion she had always offered, even to those who had hurt her. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination, but in that moment, in a simple school cafeteria on a frontier world, two young people from different stars shared lunch and began to understand that the greatest strength of any species was not their technology or their weapons, but their capacity to recognize the worth in others, regardless of how different they might appear. The Voidborn had learned too late that humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their tactics, but their ability to see past surface differences and embrace the unexpected heroes among them. It was a lesson that Barris and everyone else at New Terra Academy would carry with them for the rest of their lives.